Thank you all for coming. Now presenting is Andrew Simpson with HeartSciences.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm Andrew Simpson. I'm the CEO of HeartSciences. Our corporate name is HeartSciences Laboratories, Inc. We are NASDAQ listed, and our ticker is HSCS. And look, our first product is called the MyVista, and our objective is for it to become a fixture in a frontline physician's office to better identify referral pathway for at-risk patients for heart disease to enable that to happen earlier. I'm going to be saying some stuff about the company. So let me tell you a little bit about us. We are the only listed pure play AI ECG company. And why is that important? Can I ask people in the audience, can you put your hand up if you've either heard of somebody or know somebody that's unexpectedly had a heart attack or even died of a heart attack? Nearly everybody, or everybody. Well, guess how many times I've asked that question, and nearly everybody always says, yes, I've heard of somebody who's had a heart attack unexpectedly. And the reason for that is heart disease is known as the silent killer. And AI ECG is going to be the way that you're going to solve that problem. It is opening up a new era for ECGs, and it's going to be the only opportunity for effectively transforming the screening for heart disease. And our first product candidate is called the MyVista, and it is specifically designed to address that significant diagnostic gap for frontline physicians. And at the end of the day, heart disease is the biggest killer of people in the United States, and it is the biggest spend worldwide in healthcare. So it's an enormous addressable market with today hundreds of millions of ECGs being undertaken in the US, up to 1 billion worldwide, and our company has a supply-based business model. We've had $60 million invested in the company to date. Our market cap is 10 million, but I won't get into moaning about market caps, because I'm sure every CEO who's attending this can do that. And we have a compelling body of clinical evidence about both our device and this field. And where are we in our process for commercialization? We undertook a de novo submission for regulatory approval in 2020. About half of companies don't get through first time around on de novo, but we've got a very narrow pipeline of things to work on. And we've been working on that since 2020, and we're very, very close to a resubmission and the commercialization pathway. So look, heart disease. The challenge in heart disease isn't in cardiology. They have a plethora of fantastic imaging techniques, from echoes to CT scanners to MRI scanners to diagnose heart disease. The challenge is for primary care to be able to address the issue. So what does a primary care physician have today? They have a risk assessment. Are you overweight? Do you have a family history? Do you smoke? And then people think that the ECG, known a lot in the US as EKG, is the way to screen for heart disease. But it just isn't. It's good for identifying if you've got rhythm issues of the heart, like AFib, but it is extremely poor at identifying coronary arterial disease or structural disease, like a valve issue, which are the big killers of people. So that creates an incredibly inefficient referral process. The vast majority of people find out they've got heart disease through having an adverse event. And I can assure you that a heart attack is not a good way to find out you've got heart disease. Yet on the other hand, because of the referral pathway program being based on risk, the health system, most cardiology visits for screening yield a negative outcome, and that's costing the system tens of billions of dollars a year. So we are about transforming that referral pathway. And AI ECG, it is now absolutely indisputable that this is going to be a major revolution for heart disease and for the clinical efficacy of an ECG because of AI. And the quote in the middle of this slide is from an editorial commentary of our Journal of American College of Cardiology publication in 2020, and it's talking about the field of making the ECG do more. And it discusses that these are some of the most significant advances since the inception of the ECG. Well, the ECG has been around 100 years, so that is a pretty big statement, and goes on to talk about the fact that it's never historically had a role for cardiac dysfunction, which is what research around the world is now demonstrating will happen. And we're at the absolute cutting edge of that from a commercialization perspective. We are the only listed companies involved in commercialization. There's two others that I know of in this sector, and they're private companies, and that Anamana is actually a spin-out from Mayo Clinic. And you've seen none of the incumbent manufacturers have really done any development on ECG in decades. You've seen billions of dollars of corporate value added by people like iRhythm by making an easier to wear patch. Doesn't really change the indication for use for an ECG, but that's created billions of dollars of value. And what we're doing is going to revolutionize the clinical capability and the value of an ECG. So our first device, the MyoVista, this is a screenshot. It is incredibly simple to use for a frontline physician, which is what you want for frontline physicians. So all of the way that you administer the test is exactly the same as a conventional ECG. We provide all of today's ECG outputs, the trace and the traditional interpretive analysis. But on top of that, there is a very simple to use algorithm for cardiac dysfunction, which basically says yes or no, you have some level of cardiac dysfunction, and radically improves the referral tool. This is a referral tool. And we have heaps of intellectual property. We were the first to have a clinical publication in this new field. We've got multiple US patents, multiple international patents. We've spent millions of dollars on a proprietary database to be able to do our work today. And, you know, look, guess what? The only way that you move forward in a new industry is by making mistakes, and we've made our fair share. But that means we've got years worth of advanced clinical know-how about how to do this. And our first algorithm that we'll be applying into our device it's just basically a great screening biomarker. So it's impaired cardiac relaxation, which is diastolic dysfunction. If you know about diastole, you might have heard it's the relaxation phase of the heartbeat. The reason why that's a great biomarker is it's the first clinical manifestation of near any form of heart disease, whether it's caused by obstructive stenosis, whether it's caused by structural issues, whether it's diabetes or hypertension that's impacting the heart. It's the first place it shows up, and it gets worse as you go up the spectrum. So a physician will be able to identify you at all phases of the heart failure continuum. We've got lots of clinical evidence starting in 2018, the first publication in this new field. The one on the top right in the Journal of American Cardiology is very interesting in that it's undertaken by a world-renowned research cardiologist. And he compared a MyoVista algorithm to conventional screening methodologies, which are ECG, BMP testing, and risk-based scoring. And he found not only did we beat each of those individually, but we beat all of them in combination. And the bottom two publications here are about futures. The bottom left was an algorithm for screening for coronary arterial disease. The bottom right was about your risk of having a major adverse cardiac event within a 3-year period. So you could imagine the day that you go to a primary care physician, and within a 20-second test, he tells you, have you got heart disease, even at an early stage, and are you at high risk for a major adverse cardiac event over the next 3 years? That is incredibly valuable. Our first clinical study, which with the FDA for our first submission, basically showed fantastic results. 2 clinical endpoints, depending on whether a physician wants to interpret a borderline result as positive or negative. They interpret it as negative, a fantastic blend of specificity and sensitivity. If they interpret it as positive, essentially a negative predictive test. And we are not a one and done product. We and research around the world is demonstrating there's going to be a myriad of future more specific algorithms for specific disease states. We signed in late 2022 a multi-year collaboration with Rutgers, where the chief of cardiology is an incredibly well-renowned new technology echocardiologist. So we will be bringing forward new indications for use. And in terms of where we are on our journey for commercialization, the FDA wanted us to do a new pivotal study. I'll talk about that in a minute. That's 550 patients, been ongoing for 2 and a bit years. We said that we'd finish that by the end of this month, and touch wood, we'll be there or thereabouts. So we are very, very close to concluding a multi-year study. There'll be then a period of time where the results are analyzed and final work takes place for submission. So you would expect FDA clearance next year, and then we'll be on the journey to commercialization. Regarding the FDA, look, that's the big banana for all medical related companies. So we are a de novo based medical device. De novo, if you've heard of 510K, 510K means there's an existing product on the market and basically you're copying something that's already out there. De novo means of new. So when I say we're doing something that's never been done before, the FDA agrees with that. But we are a class 2 non-significant risk device, which means forget, drug-based pathways and essential products. We're a much simpler pathway. And like I said, because you're doing something new, when you present to the FDA, they don't really know what they want to ask you till you get there, and you don't know what they're going to ask until you get there. So about half the companies don't get through first time around. They have changed their requirements for validating machine learning algorithms. So we have been performing a new clinical validation study, which I discussed. We are virtually finalized on. So we are very close after 2.5 years to a resubmission to the FDA. And in terms of the opportunity out there commercially, this is a massive, massive opportunity. The ECG is by far the most common cardiac test in the world. The conventional ECG capital equipment alone is a $5 billion global market, and there's estimates of up to 1 billion ECG tests undertaken around the world, and we are a razor blade recurring revenue business model. There'll be future development, as I've discussed, and it is important to reiterate that we are a low-cost device which is administered in all of the same ways as a conventional ECG, producing that information plus hugely valuable further data, which means adoption, we won't have the same challenges of new products that physicians have got to do, kind of weird things with or understand things very differently. And in terms of the razor blade, so our device, the MyoVista, we would aim to sell for below the cost of a conventional ECG, because that, for us, is not really where the money is. And we want to make this affordable, particularly for frontline physicians. So it's a below $5,000 device. But the electrodes, which have got incredibly, A, patented, and B, have clinical value, are where the money is. But at less than $10 a test per supply, so still a very low cost test. If you were to run a MyoVista once a day, 250 days a year, that would be more than $2,000 in revenue. And in a high use environment, ECGs used 30 times a day, potentially. So you can do the math and see that the revenue opportunity out of supplies in this area is enormous. In terms of the market, I'm always interested by people who talk about TAMs. Medical device companies say, I've got a million patient TAM, I've got a 5 million patient TAM. And they proudly say that, rightly so. There's more than 100 million ECGs undertaken in the US every year. There's more than 10 million echoes, and we are the bridge between those two devices. There are 1 billion visits to ambulatory care in the US. And half of those visits are patients who should be screened for heart disease because they're at high risk of heart disease. So there is an absolutely enormous market opportunity. And people think of you say ECG, they go, oh, that's a cardiology test. Well, today, ECGs are used throughout healthcare. Cardiology is a tiny environment, and we would add value in nearly all of those particular environments. A tiny, tiny subsector of the market would be anesthesia tests, pre-anesthesia testing, and anesthesiologists have expressed a lot of interest to us about our product. If you go under general anesthetic, one of the highest risks you have of mortality is you have some kind of cardiac event, and they simply cannot bring you back. You really should be screened on an echo, but no health system in the world would just allow patient screening pre-anesthesia on an echo. So they run you on an ECG. But, you know, I've already said that has low efficacy for the major impacts on cardiac dysfunction. So that tiny market alone, you could build a whole business of. But that is a tiny subsector of the opportunity available to us. But you've got to start somewhere. So, you know, I'm not claiming that we'll go after all things in the early days. You need to go after the low-hanging fruit. Cardiology, yes, we need to address cardiology, but not on a broad sales basis. We simply will be going after key centers of excellence to build credibility. So that doesn't require a heavy sales effort. And then the big markets will be primary care, concierge medicine, and there's been an absolute explosion in retail clinics. You've seen Amazon Health investing billions of dollars to move that business forward. Walmart Health investing billions of dollars to move Walmart Health forward. Amazon bought One Life Medical. They're all about the future of low-cost testing, which we are a perfect device for. And can the physician make money out of our device? Well, yes. A, they would get conventional ECG reimbursement straight out of the chute. B, the AMA has already granted CPT codes for AI ECG. That is despite nobody having an FDA approval for this. That is incredibly rare, and to me says how important the AMA believe this new area will be. And somebody like, you know, a Lifeline Screening, who's a pure screening environment, every Maya Vista that they had would probably earn them $250,000 to $500,000 a year. So there is an enormous revenue opportunity for the system, but still providing testing at low cost. In terms of our management team, my background, my sins, I actually trained as an accountant and then was an investment banker, but then went on to run 2 large companies. But I invested a material amount of money in this company as a private company, and I've got a keen interest in technology and healthcare. Mark Hill's our COO. He and I really moved this company from concept to where we are today. He started 3 technology businesses, 2 became NASDAQ listed, 2 were sold. He's also a material investor. And at the end of the day, we are a technology play in healthcare. And our line chiefs in R&D and clinical are all dyed-in-the-wool industry people. And look, one of the things, you know, we're a tiny company. Our market cap today is $10 million. One of the things that makes me really excited about our company is the quality of the research institutions and the physicians that want to work with us. And that's primarily because they recognize that this is going to be the way of solving the conundrum of heart disease. So to finish, in terms of us as a company, we are the only listed pure play AI ECG company out there. We are one of a tiny number of people who are moving commercialization of this forward. It is absolutely indisputable that AI is going to create an enormous opportunity for the sector and has got the opportunity to transform the landscape for the biggest killer of people and the biggest spend in healthcare. The market is absolutely enormous. Millions of ECGs today are undertaken every week, and that is despite clinical guidance around the world to say do not use an ECG for screening purposes because it has low diagnostic efficacy, which is what's about to change. We've had significant investment in the company while we were private and as a public company to move to a point of being near FDA ready. We have significant clinical evidence in peer-reviewed publications, and we are close to resubmission for an FDA de novo pathway. So with that, I will wrap up and take questions. And I've been given the 5-minute downtime. Gentleman at the back. Yeah. So clearly, to sell the product, you've got to have regulatory approval. So, you know, that's the first step in the jigsaw. But our business model would be internationally, we would go through distribution channels, and we've already signed approximately 10 distributors internationally, and they've been incredibly helpful at KOL development, key opinion leader development work internationally, which has fed into the device and been very valuable for our FDA submission process. So we've already got distributors lined up internationally. And in the US, I would see a direct sales force, but unlike many companies that need lots and lots of salespeople and, you know, frankly, invest tens or hundreds of millions of pounds in sales and marketing, we need a relatively thin team of people. And I would see after a year that being about 12 people, because you can make a lot of progress in the key core areas I've talked about PCPs and concierge medicine in middle income, higher income areas. People like a Walmart Health or an Amazon Health, that is a corporate sale process. So you don't need a large number of salespeople for that. No, so ECGs, so the ECG, the conventional trace that you see, the squiggly trace which is associated, that is a time voltage signal. I mean, that is an analog signal. So that signal is good at telling you rhythm issues of the heart, like AFib. So when you hear of iRhythm, they AFib, Apple Watch, AFib, they're an ECG. They're all about rhythm issues of the heart. But the challenge with heart disease is the rhythm of the heart doesn't change until you're very close to having a heart attack often. So what you're now able to do with the machine learning or the AI is you look at the electrical signal from the heart in great more sophistication. And at the end of the day, electricity powers the mechanical function of the heart, which basically means you can now detect cardiac dysfunction that's at a much earlier stage than when rhythm is being interrupted. And that's what we're doing. That's what research is indisputably showing. Well, I mean, I hate to speculate on FDA clearance, but let's pick a year-ish, something like that away. We're already ensconced with multiple institutions in the US. I mean, we've got 5 key institutions. We've got Rutgers on top of that are currently conducting research with us. So I think once you get approval, before you've really put a launch plan in place, you'll have early revenue coming out of some of the key institutions that you've been working with who want to do evaluation work. Early adopters, you've already kind of ensconced with those. And then we have distributors in place who are basically, they're chomping at the bit to put some product out there, but we've just got to go through that regulatory process. And we've been focused on the FDA, but we will move to, I won't get into the CE markets, Europe doing their thing. But that may well come through before FDA clearance, which should give us approval there. Yeah, so the first algorithm is point in time. It's a diagnostic. Do you have a cardiac dysfunction or do you not have cardiac dysfunction? there's testing longitudinally, like the MACE study, that would show that you could do longitudinal work. And the reason why we've gone for the first algorithm being diastolic dysfunction is that any form of heart disease, whether it's a valve issue, whether it's obstructive stenosis, the first place it shows up is diastolic dysfunction. So we're not saying to a cardiologist we're trying to replace you by diagnosing exactly what the patient has. We're saying to a frontline physician, here's how you make a far more effective referral judgment about who and who should not go to a cardiologist. Yeah. Yes. So first of all, the AMA have already granted additional CPT codes for this. So there will be new CPT codes. Why you go through the coverage process? When I speak to primary care physicians, they say, I could easily charge, and this is why you wouldn't go to downtown Detroit as your first, and you go to middle income or higher. They say, I could charge $50 for this test. They would make significant extra income, but charge the patient a very low charge and give them high value for that. So all the primary care physicians we speak to, they say, I would get no pushback at $50. Thank you very much.